Hello, everyone, and welcome to the February Society of West Coast Artists demo. I would like to introduce SWA to you. It is a fully volunteer organization. We are totally run by volunteers. We have no paid staff. So we are always looking for new members, and we're always looking for volunteers to help us do the many tasks that are required to run an organization such as ours. So you can go to our website, societyofwest-coastartists.com, and there you'll find lots of information about our society and ways you can volunteer and become a member. So if you are not a member, please consider joining. Thank you. This is one of the benefits of being a member, but of course, everyone can see these demos. But if you are a member, then you are able to participate in our shows at our gallery, which is where we are right now. So today we have the privilege of presenting Ellen Howard as our demonstration artist. Let me tell you a little bit about Ellen. Ellen Howard is a California Impressionist painter whose work has been featured in American Art Collector, Fine Art Connoisseur, and Plein Air magazine, as well as in the book, The Great American Paintout, published by ACC Art Books. She was chosen as an artist in the 5 to Watch section of Fine Art Connoisseur August-September 2023 issue, and was featured as the spotlight artist in the California Art Club's July newsletter. Her work has been shown in Salmagundi exhibitions and in the past 6 California Art Club gold medal exhibitions, and she has won awards in excellence of traditional fine art exhibition, California Art Club, Hughes Skelly Gallery, Frank Bett Paintout, Mendocino Open Paintout, and Capitola Plein Air Paintout. Her paintings have been included in shows at the Peninsula Museum of Art, Burlingame, California, the Triton Museum, Santa Clara, California, Salmagundi Club, New York City, New York, and the Mendocino Art Center, California, as well as numerous group and solo shows. A featured artist and presenter for the Mendocino Paintout, Howard has also taught workshops in Northern California and is an active member of the California Art Club, currently serving as a vice president. And I'd like to just tell you a quote about her. She says, "My art is centered around living a faithful life and trusting in the unfolding of the great tapestry of life." So it is our privilege to present to you Ellen Howard.
Thank you so much. That was quite the intro, so I super appreciate that. Thank you guys for coming, and thanks for everybody on Zoom land. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm just happy to talk about gouache, which has gotten a resurgence in recent years. It's not a new medium, but a lot of artists are taking it up again. And one of my favorite things is that people that are learning about gouache, they don't know how to pronounce it. And close friends of mine know that I have a really hard time pronouncing things. So it's spelled Gouche, gouache, it's pronounced. And it goes back to ancient times. The Egyptians were the first to use it, mostly with an egg tempura base. They used the yolk as binder. And the French actually gave it the name gouache. And early users, which were wonderful, were Matisse for his Blue Nude studies. Also, Edward Hopper used it, and Sargent. So I did this kind of cool handout. There's a sign-up sheet in the front there if you'd like me to email it to you as a PDF, or people in Zoom land, you can email me that too, and I will send it to you. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of, so this is Hopper's, you can see it here, and also Matisse use of gouache. And then I love Sargent's over here. So you can see he used watercolor and the gouache, because the gouache has such beautiful opaque nature to it. That's one of the big benefits of it. So people who are not familiar with gouache, some of the greatest benefits are it is opaque nature, it's vibrant colors. So I'm primarily an oil painter. So what I really liked about gouache is the vibrancy of the color. So for watercolor, for me personally, sometimes it was a little bit too transparent. So that was a great asset. Also, it dries very quickly like acrylics, but it also has the benefit, if you wet it, you can reactivate an area. So you can soften a line or work over some areas and layer it. And also it's a super fast setup time. And gouache can be used as studies. So I did these 2 studies here. And so it's kind of fun, like I do a lot of pencil drawings, but you can see that I did 2 different studies, both with limited palettes, slightly different. So I use it this way quite a bit. Okay. And the difference between a water-based gouache and the acrylic gouache is that the acrylic can't be reactivated again. So, so some of the challenges of working with gouache is that you really need to know how to control the water. You don't need a lot of water with gouache because you want it to be opaque. The other challenge is that usually with oil paint, I'll pre-mix a color and there'll be a puddle of color that I can work into. With gouache, there'll be a puddle, but sometimes it's hard to get back to that same color because it dries very quickly. And then your dark values will dry a little bit lighter, and your lighter values will dry a little bit darker. So sometimes that's something you have to learn to work with. So for people who don't know gouache, I just kind of wanted to go over some of the supplies a little bit. So first, this is an easel that's been really great here. Doug Woodman is the one who created this, and I've helped him with some of the attachments. But it's plastic. It's a great travel easel. And if you see here, there's a water container, and then here's a gouache box. So as with everything, when you get into art, all the products are super fun. So you can go crazy with the different products. So this one is kind of cool. You can see there's a rubber container. And believe it or not, the gouache stays wet in here because that's one thing you have to be careful of. I'm gonna cover this until I start. So when I first started the process, I used just a simple watercolor palette. And this is great. This can be just set up at home. And you can see here, my gouache is dried a little bit. I can spray it to reactivate it, but you can probably see here, there's a little bit of mold growing on my black. So a lot of times you cannot put fresh gouache on top of the old. It will get moldy. You kind of have to scrape it out and do that. There's another great kit that one of my friends told me about. It's from Art Toolbox, and I can show you this stuff here. But you literally, it's something you place, it's a zip container, you put it on your lap, and then your sketchbook. See, this is a great travel journal. So you can do little sketches. And this was from my trip to the Sierras, which was very fun. And it comes with a very small palette. So you can just sit this on your lap, or one of the guests here said that you can take it on the airplane, but you can see it's really small. You put your little gouache in here. So there's a lot of different options. And the best thing is all you need is water. You don't need turp or anything like that. So that's great. So again, you can use, the paper you want to use is watercolor paper and cold press. And you want to use paper that has a little bit of a heft to it, at least 140-pound paper. So I've used these. I've started out with, when I first started out with gouache, I got into it actually because I had surgery and I couldn't lift my arm very high. And so I wanted to do something creative.
Couldn't do it.
And I just put this on the dining room table. And every day, my husband was very excited about it. Every day I would just sit and do all these studies. And I started, this is the first book that I did, and it was super fun because I bought a little starter kit from Royal Talens. A lot of different manufacturers make gouache, but the reason I thought Royal Talens was fun, it was about, I think 6 or 8 in the starter kit, but none of the colors were your regular colors. There was no cad yellow, no lemon yellow. It was like a rose-colored red, not cad red or alizarin. So it really made me think about how to use these colors. And so I just had a lot of fun with trying something different. And a lot of these studies, if you like them, they can be used to do larger works. And right now, if I took some water to this, I could soften an edge and add to it. So it's not permanent, which is nice. So this is a gouache here. And then what I started to find, because I wanted to go plein air, was that I had asked a friend, actually Charity Anderson, what she used. And it was these Cottonwood Arts. They come in these books. They come in 5x7, 6x6, and 8x10. And so you can see their boards, their watercolor boards. So, and just like with a watercolor paper, you're going to draw with pencil. That's a difference too. So you're going to have your design there. So I kind of had started a small one here, a couple different designs. Gouache is usually done in a small scale too. They're not usually huge paintings for this medium. So basically I've usually done this, but I've also I wanted to do an 8x10 just because we're in a bigger space. So this one is Tuolumne Meadows, which I love, one of my favorite places in Yosemite. So this was a study that I did in gouache on the 8x10. And then yesterday I did this painting in oil, which is 11x14. So.
Would you do 11x14 using the gouache or no?
Yeah, I could. I think probably 8x10 is the biggest I would do at this point. I remember the gold medal exhibition that I was in for the California Art Club this past summer. My painting was hanging next to Tiffany Mang's painting, and she's very well known for gouache. And I believe, if I was to guess, it was like a 16x16. It was a gorgeous ocean scene. But typically, usually gouache is done small. So my hand up too, there's 4 artists that are doing wonderful work in gouache. Everybody knows Scott Christensen for his gorgeous oils and landscape, but he also does beautiful gouache studies. You can find him on Instagram. And then Michael Hernandez is probably one of the most well-known for his gouache. He teaches in gouache and he's an illustrator. And then Tiffany Mang I mentioned, and then Terry Muir, who's up in Sacramento. I love his work. So they're also listed on my handout too. So any questions so far? All right, and then also I just wanted to talk about the tubes of paint. So usually they'll come in a big size like this for the white, and then the colors will come in a smaller size. I like the Royal Talons. I got into, this is Holbein, and then I also use some Winsor Newton. But I found right now that I'm going back to using the regular traditional colors, and I think I kind of want to try some of the different colors, like the magentas and stuff. One new one that I actually did get from Michael Hernandez is called Chromatic. Oh no, I'm sorry. I think it's Violet Spectrum. So it's a neat violet that I've been playing with. What is it here? Oh, Spectrum Violet. And it's great for like shadows in the water and also for a little bit of like a shadow color in the snow. So that's been fun. So this is a great container here. You can find it on Amazon, I think for like $8. And this rubber keeps it super moist, which is really nice.
Ellen, do you want to give your email address for the handout?
Oh, sure. It's just my name, Ellen Howard, and the word art, A-I-A-R-T, @gmail.com. And you can go on my website too, ellenhowardart.com, and you can send me a link there too. All right. Well, I'm going to do a seascape for you. And I'll just show you. So you can do a lot of different sizes too. Just color study here. And what I do to get these edges let me just go back up. I put like blue painter's tape around it. And so that's how I get this clean edge. Some people like it a little bit more messy, a rougher edge, which is totally fine. It just depends on what you like. And then I also just wanted to mention, these are two finished products over here. And so there's a great framer in Burlingame, Epson Frames. So the first one on the left, you can see it came out of my notebook, and I just had him tear the edge for that. And then the one on the far right is one of my boards. So, and that came from these boards here. And so I just think it's a nice, clean presentation. So and also what I would say is because it is water activated, you either want to varnish your work or you want to put it under glass so that's finished. Okay. So basically you just need paper, some paint, brushes, and water, and you're ready to go, which is so nice. Oh, my brushes. Okay, so I love the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. So you can buy sets on Amazon, like come in five. I have a problem with brushes, as my husband will say. I just keep saying, oh, I need another one, and 2 more will come in the mail. Or, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have 30 brushes now. So that's my weakness. But I didn't bring 30 with me. I just brought these. But what you want to be careful too is you don't want watercolor brushes for your gouache. They're too soft. You can use, like this is a synthetic brush, but you can use some hog hair if you wanted to, but it's a little bit too rough. So these are kind of in between both of them. And yeah. And yeah, I've just started kind of using the bigger ones. So I know some artists doing gouache, they do it the same way as an oil painting. They'll do maybe a wash down. And I've tried that, and I do like that approach, but I kind of just go right into on the white surface. So, all right. So we've got this Pescadero scene. I have drawn it out here, and you can see the rocks coming out. I have painted here many, many times, and here is my photo reference here. So it's a great area. And then I had also done this study here, and I can already see that my wave right here is a little bit close to the middle. So I've kind of, in my second one here, moved it over a little bit more to the right. So, it's a nice way to, look at your composition and make some changes and stuff like that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to start with my dark shapes, which are over here, my rocks. I'm a big purple girl, so I always start with some purple. So it's alizarin and ultramarine and some white here. And I can tell that's pretty thick, my paint right now. So sometimes what you want to do is this, you can find this at like a CVS, a little spray bottle, and you just want to wet it. But you got to learn to adjust your water, because if it gets too soft or too much water in it, it's not gonna give you that opaque quality. So I'll make a pretty big purple, and then I'll have some sienna in here for to start my rocks. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. We've got the camera here, so I'm going to be moving back and forth here. So I'm just kind of getting my base color in here. So I'm working on my shadows. So the colors that I have here they are a little standard. So I've got lemon yellow, I've got cad yellow. I have yellow ochre, I have flame red, alizarin crimson, I have black, which I don't typically use. The green is different. I love this moss green by Holbein. It's really pretty. And I love the cad green. I have the sienna, cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, and it's a cobalt teal, which is a little bit new. And then I told you about the spectrum violet. Yeah, it's a cobalt turquoise. So that's my current palette right now. So again, every time you start something, you kind of want to get the big shapes in first before you start getting your detail in. So I'm going to put a little bit more warmth. The light is coming from the left in my scene. So the rock on the left side is going to get a little bit more warmth, a little bit lighter. So to me, I could have a little bit more warmth in there. And as you can see, I think you can see this is a little bit in the way, but I'm going back into the same puddle. Okay. So a lot of times with the gouache, I'll have one side that's kind of my shadow color, and then the other side is going to be more of my lights. So I already know I've got part of that a little bit too purple. So it's already dry, if you can believe it. So all I have to do is kind of come back into this purple mixture and add a little of my brown. Again, this is the shadow side coming through here. Another little rock. And I would take more time if I'm doing this on my own. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just putting the shapes in first because if I got into that, I wouldn't move forward. Yeah, so I'm not. So this, I'm trying to have this one be a little bit bluer. As it goes back, it's going to be a little bit bluer. But the edges can be softened really easily. So let me get some warmth on there. It's just perspective as the mountains go back and the color fades out, you get a little bit bluer. And then also the rocks too, you do get some reflected light from the ocean coming up. You can see some of the greens coming through here and some of the blue. I have some blue. It's a little bit hard to see from there, from the water. Sure. Yeah, I'm not getting the color I want right here. Okay. I'm getting this a little bit too warm. But I can adjust this down. And sometimes experimenting with the colors is what's really fun about working with gouache. A little more, okay. That's okay. So you can see I'm layering the color right now and it's not getting, I'm gonna do some more brown. It's not getting muddy because it's already dried. If you don't wait, you can kind of play with it and get and feel the water consistency, but if you don't wait for it to dry, your colors can get a bit muddy and it's not gonna have a good presentation. So again, I'm just making my purple over here. So I can reactivate it a little bit. I'm just trying to get my major rocks in now. And I do start with my darks and then kind of go to up to my medium value. And then I save my lights generally for the end. You can see they're starting to come there. So I'm actually going to leave. I might close this one up a little bit here. But I'll show you with the edges, which is kind of cool. So all I have to do is take water and I can go right through here and soften it. See how it blends? So that's the kind of cool thing with it too. You have to be careful not to use too much water or you're going to lose the opaque feel of it. It's going to become too transparent, but it's kind of fun to add. Okay, I'm going to get some of my ocean colors in there. And as with all paintings, I always tell my students, there's a while where your painting looks like it's a teenager and you're not quite sure how it's going to grow up. And you have to get a lot of the background in before you can kind of add the juiciness to it. Okay, so I'm going to get, usually with the ocean, this is more, I would say, an intimate scene that I'm painting. It's a close-up scene. So generally in the foreground of the ocean, when you're close, it's more green. And a lot of times there's some yellow in it because it's reflecting the sand from underneath if it's transparent. And then as it goes back, it blues a bit. And towards the horizon, it generally grays. So I'm going to kind of pump up. The white water that you see in this one is done on top. So I'm going to put a dark layer of the green on the bottom. So I'm just using Viridian and some blue, a touch of red. It looks pretty dark here. Too much red. Back to the ultramarine. A little bit of white in there. And back to the moss. So let's see what we got here. Yeah. So I've got a pretty dark green. And then, you can always come back. Like if you don't like the shape, you can negatively move that shape around a bit and change that. I do draw a lot at home, but I find that I really love color. So being able to do something, at the dining room table or something quick, it's very satisfying. So it's really a great medium to use. And I know everybody's concerned about toxicity, and by using the water, you're not dealing with the chemicals of terp and things like that. And also for travel too, it's you can never travel with your terp. You can't even put that in your luggage. So there's always a challenge of landing somewhere, having a friend who has the terp, or finding an art store that's close by so you can buy that, as an oil painter. And I'm taking a group over to Spain in May, which I'm super excited about. And half the group is going to be doing gouache and half are going to be doing oil. So I'm just getting my darks in right here. And remembering to put a little bit over here to carry through. All right, so I'm going to be moving back to more blue. It's getting bluer. There's also can be some viridian green in there. It's cooling down a little bit. Too dark. So I've got more of a gray blue in here. Maybe I'll add a touch of the green viridian back in here. And what I'm doing too is, I know it's hard to see on a demo, I'm not sticking my whole brush into the thing. I'm sticking a corner of my brush in there. So it doesn't take a lot to change the color. I'm like, okay, let's make this a little bit lighter and a little more cobalt in there. Too light. So I know this is looking a little bit stripy, but again, as soon as, I'll show you in a second here. Also, when you finish too, one of the most beautiful things you can do with gouache, at least I think so, is the dry brushing effect that you can get. So it looks stripy there, but I'll show you, all I have to do, everything's dry already. If I lightly come over, you can get a really pretty, I had too much water on my brush for that. Shoot. I will do it again though.
So now we do a question.
Yeah.
Does gouache dry lighter or darker?
So your darks are gonna dry slightly lighter than you think, and your lights are gonna dry slightly darker. So that is something that you need to compensate for. There's also a way you can do it. A lot of times, artists, if they're in the middle of a painting, they have another sheet of watercolor paper and they'll dab it, and they'll test the color and see if it's right. So I'm just working on my color here, trying to get more of this filled. Okay. I probably should have changed brushes by now, but I didn't. I don't usually work with these big brushes, so it's been kind of fun. So you can see it's getting a little bit of that dry brush effect right there. Whoops. So I'm actually going to work on the purples or the shadow side of that wave a little bit. So if you guys are interested about the color, usually I talk about it. But again, I'm starting with the ultramarine blue, a little bit of alizarin. And then it's always a little bit too purple. So I always add a dab of yellow ochre to it. So to me, this is looking too dark, a little more white there. So I can test it. I can go here. Yep, too dark still. Getting better. So my light again is going to come from the left. So there's going to be more of a shadow side on the right for this wave. I'm going to be hitting this rock. So I'm going to put a little bit in here. Behind the wave, the big crashing wave, there's another wave starting. And it was this beautiful kind of green color. So, and that's going to be too green. Most of the greens that you make will have a little bit of red in them. So if it's something that's looking too saturated for you with your greens, add a little red, and that usually helps it. I added too much blue there.
There's another question.
Okay.
What kind of varnish do you suggest? Spray, wet?
I use the Kamar varnish, and I'll have to go, if they want to email me, I'll give you the exact. I don't generally varnish my gouaches. I like kind of the matte finish, but it's up to you on what you'd like to do. So this wave is coming behind here. You guys seeing that? Okay. Making it a little bit lighter here. One thing I think similar to watercolor is if I've got this dark coming in, it's hard to put a white over your darks. So that's why you see I'm not quite going around my total shape because I know I can take some of my lights over, but it's a little bit trickier to get a pure white over a dark color. So that hump there you're seeing is where my wave is going to be. I'm leaving that open. And then as I mentioned before, it gets a little bit bluer and grayer in the back. So one of my favorite grays generally is ultramarine blue with some orange. And with the gouache, see, do you see that I didn't mix enough? It's very transparent. I don't have orange on here. So sometimes I'll use a little black, or you can generally make an orange too.
When you get a chance, could you show the reference photo again?
Sure.
People in Zoom land?
Yeah. So this was my reference here. So I'm just kind of, where I am right now is this back wave coming in with some of the white water. Okay. Yeah, and I'm working for my study, so this one was already done. So I'm working on the back green area coming in, and I'm just laying in the foundation before I start putting all the juicy stuff on top. So that's a little bit too dark. A little more white on there. So what you can do too is you can spray your palette. I generally try not to spray my palette just the way I work. I don't like it super wet. I'd rather control the wetness by the water I'm dipping into than by spraying it. So this, my study had a little bit more viridian in it. So I'm just adding a little bit of that in there. And I'm just bringing down, it's very wet, so I can bring a little bit of that down if I want to. I'm going to go up to the clouds because I want to cover as much of the white as I can right now. So there's always that, I love it actually, the beautiful kind of fog that hangs over. And to me, it's always kind of a purplish pink. So I'm going to lay that in. And I remember when I was painting this painting, I worked on those clouds probably 4 or 5 times because I initially laid it in a little bit too dark. I'm taking a little bit of the fire red. And, you know, you don't have to be the same as what I've done there. You know, I can change it up a little bit here. So let's see. It might be too dark. But I think I'm going to go with it. It's a, you can see it's a warmer purple coming through here. So this is my marine layer that I'm working with. It's nice to have some clean water too. So when you want to change something or soften something, you can dip right into it. Okay, so some of the blues coming in there. Oh, I'm okay right now. Thanks. I got some clean water on my easel at least. Thank you. So I'm going to make this a little bit lighter and grayer as it goes up. And I can tell right now the paint's getting very thick. I really like doing clouds actually, so this is one of my favorite things here. And I know I've gotten it a little too purple back here. I put a little more ochre in there, a little bit more white. Let's see what we got. So I got some warmth coming in here. And I'm going to leave it like that. I put my white on at the end, so let's just get the basic sky there. I usually like my cerulean, but I didn't bring it with me. I have that cobalt turquoise, which I usually put in the waves. But if you mix a little bit of the cobalt turquoise with the regular cobalt blue, it's a nice sky color. So a trick too for doing gouache is to have different puddles. So, you know, having a cooler puddle, a blue puddle, a yellow puddle, and you can keep going back in and reactivating it. And it also causes, it allows you to have a lot of color harmony because you're pulling from colors that you've already mixed. I'm trying to cover this fast and I think I'm getting this really thin. How are we doing for? Okay. We're doing okay. Any more questions? Thank you guys for coming out on a rainy Saturday day. I really appreciate it. So this would be a perfect activity to do at home on a rainy day. I'm not really worrying about my up and down strokes. I'm actually just kind of having fun to see what kind of effect it's creating. I've kind of got that going on. Oh, thank you. All right, so I left a little bit of an area there because that's where my my white's going to go. So I am going to take pure white and see if it's not. Sometimes I put a little bit into the mixture that I had for the clouds. So let's see. I'm going to put a little bit of the white in here. Okay. So now what I would do is I'm going to come back and just soften everything. One trick too with controlling the gouache, the water, I'm sorry, is always having a paper towel in your hand and then kind of tapping your brush to the towel a couple times so you're not going to get too much water in there. So I can easily, I have too much water, I can tell. I can easily come back in here and soften this. And you can kind of blend it. Some things you want blended, some things you don't. So you have to kind of decide. Like, I kind of like that this color is broken a bit, to be honest. Usually I like everything. See how soft this is? I went there and combined, but I think I might keep a little more of this broken.
Maybe show the reference photo.
Yeah, so right here you can see that in my original, it's very soft. There's not a lot of different colors, broken color. Everything's it's harmonizing, but I kind of like that there's broken color coming in here. So I might keep it a little bit more. So I can also, you can come back in with the blue if you don't like a shape. You can change the shape a little bit here too, which is easy. One thing I don't like is I do an artist that does really great seascapes. He was painting next to me. He's like, oh, my biggest pet peeve is when people have too hard of a horizon line back where the water edge is. And ever since then, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can never have a hard line back there. So that's what you learn, like little things you learn with people, that you paint with. So I just am going to soften, but see how easily that softens? With just the water. So that's what I mean with the edges. You can just come back. You can have it soft. So, all right, I'll get some of that white water in so you can start seeing what's going on here. Also, let me start with, before I do that, some of the wave that's coming behind there. I'm just taking the piles that I already have mixed on my palette, and I'm having it, just adding a little white to it. So that back wave here, you've seen them. They kind of have a little bit of an edge to them. And then you see kind of that beautiful design of the white water coming down. So you can kind of play with that a little bit. Sometimes I'll do it lighter. So I could probably do it a little bit lighter because it's not popping enough. But you can see that edge and then play with the white water here. So this is looking a little funky, the shape here, but let's see. I'm going to let's try a little Viridian coming in part of that. And we're basically going to get the white of that wave. Again, I don't want the whole thing completely white, so I'm starting with a little bit of the blue that I already had on there. Again, the light's coming from the left, so most of my light's going to be here. So I'm starting to build this. I kind of work up to my lights a bit. But now it's a bit easier to see. Let's get this covered too. And I'm not panicking. I can always reestablish everything. So you can see now it's starting to take shape here. I need to get more of this blue. So I want a lighter blue over here. I can tell my white's thickening up a little bit here. Magic spray bottle. So experiment with that, because what I found is it's better to wet your paints than it is to wet your palette, because it really slips and slides everywhere if you wet your mixtures. It's much easier to control it in the container. I dip my brush in the water. I don't spray it. Yeah, because I've just learned from doing it that it's an easier way to get that. Right. Yeah. 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 It's easier to do that. All right. So the lay-in is there. And that's with any painting that you do, like get your lay-in first, and then it's always going back and adjusting your colors. I'm going to get my wave in there because that's my star. I think I added a little yellow in this one. Sometimes with the waves, you can add a little bit of the yellow for the highlight reflection from the sun, or sometimes there's a little bit of pink in there. So you can see, I don't quite like the cross area that I'm getting here. So what I'll do is I'm going to get the shape that I like and then go back. And it's hard to see on, you guys can come up after and see, but what's nice about, and Tiffany Meng did a phenomenal job on her gold medal piece. You can get, a lot of the artists will use palette knife with their gouaches and build up impasta. So you can see my thing is dry here, but I'm adding this white on really thick, and it builds a lot of great texture. So I think that's really fun. Like a lot of times at the end, I'll wait to do that. So I want this to break this edge here. So I'll go back and see if I can mix that green in the back to simplify that shape. Yeah. So I had that puddle, so I was able to go back. So I'm going to come in negatively. Let's see how I want to shape this. Okay. And this, obviously this water looks really dirty. I'm not getting any of that mud in there. So you kind of swish it around and you pull it off. I've got a little bit of clean water over here. So again, I want to soften this edge up here a little bit. Okay. So let's see, let's work on some of the water, and I'll go back and do some highlights on the rocks. But you can see there's a lot of different color breaks that I have right now. I'm just adding some more colors in here. I don't want it to be as white, blue as, as white as that initial wave. So again, I'm just kind of coming back in here, maybe a little bit more blue. One thing to be careful too is when you're on an easel, this is fine. A lot of times I'm on the desktop and I have my water here and I swish my brush and I come across. And I've ruined a couple paintings because the drips that come across your work, even though you blot them up, it's making that circle on your work and going over it. So be really careful if you're working on a tabletop that that's not something that's going to happen. Okay. So I'm going to have a little bit of this blue white water coming in. And I think the white water is always tricky planning on. You have to have a design too. Coming down in the front, I don't want it to be as bright as where my wave is. So it's going to be a little bit more cooler and purple coming through here. And I can give a little bit of a splash. So again, I'm not stepping back enough doing a demo. I'm kind of, I can have, I think it could be a little bit lighter coming through here. And I'm just going to go back with water and kind of soften, soften this area. And you can kind of bring that, I'm just using water, I'm bringing that color down and softening the edge. So sometimes like those happy accidents, I kind of like how this is dark and I have some white water here. So, before you make major changes, kind of look at, step back and look at your work. So I think I don't like the white water hitting there. So it's going to come down. Ooh, too blue. Although that's kind of a happy accident there. All right. So there's always, when the wave breaks, there's always more of that kind of white water action underneath. Okay. I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on the rocks a little bit. I'm not done with the white water yet. Well, actually, let me put a little bit of a wave back here. And I didn't finish doing any of the kind of white water coming back through here. So sometimes you can leave a little bit more simplified. Okay. So for the rocks, I can have more light coming on this side of it. So let's give so let's see how bright we can go. Have that more of a highlight there. I'm going back, I'm reactivating my colors that I had originally in that area. It looks a little bit red. Yep. But why not experiment with that a little bit more? So that's too light. What's nice about this, if you really wanted to repaint all the rocks again, you could easily. But I'm not going to do that. You can come in and just, this is too dark here. See, that's the challenge again, is it looks lighter on your palette. But you can do some of those fun edges. I can also build over more color in here too. I can change the edge. I can have this be, the light's going to hit a little bit more over here. Some of that green algae could be coming in through here. More of an orange. So you'll see that I'm really back in those piles, because even though I'm changing something, I don't want to lose my original color. So I kind of like the shape that I got by accident right here more. Wasn't light enough. And you can have more of those details coming in. This is a little bit purple down here. So I can add a little bit more of that warmth. I can add a little bit of that warmth here on that side. And you can see what I'm doing is you can see it layered, so that area of that rock, you can see the purple underneath it, but you can also see the dry brushing on top of it too. So I can go back and get some of the darks under here. There goes the water bottle. All right, so I'm back to my white water. You can keep playing and adding more colors with your rocks, which is kind of fun. So. And make sure you keep your colors clean. Like when I go into my white, it's getting a little bit dirty. I go straight down. I'm not turning it like this, because you're going to pick up a lot of, it's kind of hard unless you keep cleaning your brush to not pick up some of the stuff that's in there. So a little bit too white. So do you see, like, just if you have your brush really lightly, you can get this great effect. Do you see how it's like, it's kind of skimming across? So I'm getting that green underneath there. So, and then you can see that this is much thicker in here. You can bring up kind of that splash. So it gives you a lot of versatility. Oh, okay. I can do that. So I'm going with a little bit more blue in front. Again, having some of that water come up and splash here. Same as in the back. There's a little bit more of that white water coming through here. And maybe there's a little bit of it coming through here. That back rock is a little bit brown. So I'll take my blue that I already have and put it in this brown area here. Get it a little bit more grayer. And then I can always change this rock too. If I want to change the shape of it, I can make it bigger. Coming through here. We know that there's a little bit of a light coming on this side. So you can see that that rock looks like it's floating back there. So we just go back and lay in a little bit more of our white water. And I think it's dry. A little wet still. Once you start playing with it, you can feel the consistency of it. You can see it immediately. You can feel it on your palette if you've got too much water, and also on your canvas. So I can tell I've got too much water on my palette. So I'll just add a little bit of the white into there. So I'm just grounding this rock so it doesn't feel like it's floating out there. But I can tell it needs to dry a little bit. I put too much paint on it. So again, I'll kind of stand back and I'll look at my shapes and see, okay, do I need something to soften? Like to me, this is too straight going through here. So yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to do exactly the same as I did. This is a bigger wave here. It's a different shape. But I don't like that it's straight here. So I'm just taking some water and you can push it down or I can bring some stuff up here. I think I need to put a little bit more paint on there. I mean, it helps you with, the gouache helps you with your mixing though, because you're gonna have to remix a lot of colors because it dries. Like I said, you can reactivate some of them, but it will kind of help you get better at mixing your colors. So I'm kind of just changing that shape a little bit. And then I can come back with a little bit more white. The white, for some reason, tends to get a little bit firmer quicker than some of the other colors. So you can, when you come up afterward, you can see it's completely dry over here. Whoops. Oh, I'm going to leave that so you can see the difference. This area here had too much water on it, and this area was completely dry. So you can see you get a nice effect there, the dry brushing and so I want you to see the difference in the two of them. So this, I can also bring in some more water or waves here. And this is dry again. I don't think I'm gonna, I don't want this bottom area to draw you in as much as I want you to be looking up at the top. I'll straighten this a little bit more in the back. And I can do maybe a little bit more light here. So again, you can play. I don't have to add color, I can leave it, or I can have something a little bit brighter. Somebody's excited out there. All right, so I'm just going to do one more stroke, and I think that's about it. But yeah, come up and look at the different kind of the quality, the dry brushing, this area where there was too much water, you're going to see how it's, the opaqueness is not working right here. And then on all of these, how nice you can layer, either transparently you can layer or a thicker, you can get more of an impasto thickness up here. So it's a super fun medium. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Very fun. And thank you in Zoomland for coming. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thanks a lot. Yes, if you guys want to come up and look, oh, I have this handout that I did on gouache.